Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are immersing ourselves in one specific source document. It's titled Sacred Temple Rituals and Movements. And this material, it gives a really striking look at the, let's say, deliberate choreography of spiritual life.
It really does.
So our mission today isn't just to summarize this text, right? We want to kind of pull out the underlying mechanics, the experiential stuff, the symbolic element.
Yeah, the things that define these practices.
Exactly. We're aiming to give you, the listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding how this very intentional physical action becomes, well, synonymous with deep spiritual commitment.
A shortcut through the layers, so to speak.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah.
The source.
All right.
It doesn't just describe the temple building itself. It grounds us immediately in the participants' sensory world.
Right away.
And it really emphasizes the intense precision needed from the human body, acting within that space. It feels like a total physical commitment.
Indeed. I mean, what we're looking at is essentially a detailed roadmap of physical and sensory behavior. This isn't just general worship we're talking about. It's about analyzing the specific manner in which reverence is physically embodied.
The how, not just the what.
Precisely.
Right.
The key insight, I think, is that the physical form itself becomes the vehicle for the spiritual message.
Let's start then with that preparation phase. The moment the environment signals that shift from the everyday to the sacred.
It's the threshold.
The source points to a very specific sensory element here. The space is filled with the scent of incense.
Yes.
Now, lots of traditions use incense, but what's the source suggesting here? Is it just a nice smell, or is there a functional role?
Well, it seems to imply a kind of rapid psychological conditioning.
Okay.
Incense acts as this powerful, almost non-rational sensory trigger. By just saturating the environment with that specific scent, you sort of bypass conscious thought to start focusing.
Interesting.
The smell itself, it instantly activates these conditioned emotional responses linked to the sacred.
Yeah.
It signals to the brain, look, normal rules, they're suspended now.
So it creates this immediate, pervasive atmosphere.
Exactly. It physically locks the participant into the moment. Before a single word is uttered, before one step is taken, the environment's already done the crucial first part. Established focus, demanded presence.
Right. That makes sense. So that initial sensory hit prepares the mind, but now we shift to the body. And this is where the analysis gets, well, really interesting, I think. The source is really emphatic that all movement in this space is highly choreographed. It's not casual at all. It's performance, but performance designed for reverence.
Yes, performance art, almost.
The text describes general bodily motion with the word graceful. But when we look at how demanding the later steps are, doesn't grace feel a bit soft? Does it risk mixing up beautiful movement with what sounds like extremely disciplined, maybe even rigid movement?
That's a really crucial distinction to make. I think the source uses graceful not necessarily to mean fluid or fast in our modern sense, but rather perfect controlled execution, movement that's free of any awkwardness or error. So grace, in this context, serves a very specific, respectful purpose. For example, the source specifically points out the action of a bow of reverence. The grace ensures that the respect is communicated clearly without any mistake.
So the movement itself is like a language.
Exactly. Every adjustment has to convey meaning. That bow isn't just, dropping your head. It's a total physical act, a controlled descent and ascent, and is used explicitly to show respect. That demands precise muscle control, not just casual ease.
And the level of discipline required is almost atomic, isn't it?
Yeah.
We move past this general body grace to the breakdown of individual actions, starting right at the extremities.
Yeah, the details.
Look at the detail for the ritual of the hands. The source says these movements are precise, and then you contrast that with the power of the steps. Every single step taken is described as deliberate.
Precise hands, deliberate steps. What's fascinating there, I think, is how that intentionality works psychologically. Why demand such precision, such deliberation? It's not just about looking good, right? It feels like a form of cognitive load management almost. If your hands must be precise and your steps must be deliberate, your body is forced into this state of total physical awareness.
Okay, I see.
By demanding extreme focus on every tiny movement, from the smallest hand gesture to just placing your foot, the ritual physically stops the mind from wandering off to, mundane stuff.
Laundry lists and email.
Exactly. It's a deep focus technique.
Yeah.
The body literally locks the mind into the present sacred task.
That makes a lot of sense. So that total physical lock and the precise hands, the deliberate steps, that's the outer manifestation.
Right.
So now we have to ask, what's the inner dedication being shown? How does the source connect those movement mechanics to the spiritual purpose?
Well, it ties specific intention to the exchange of objects. The text tells us that the offering of symbols is done specifically to pay homage. So the physical act of presenting something is inseparable from acknowledging the authority, whether it's the tradition or the divine.
The outward gesture shows respect.
Yes. And then we layer the internal meaning onto that. The source gives us a glimpse into the participants' inner thoughts through the whispered prayers,
Right.
which are explicitly called a plea for guidance.
The plea for guidance, that's specific.
Very specific. So the ritual seems to provide these two necessary forms of communication. The outward physical act, the offering, pays respect, establishing the relationship.
Okay.
But the inner whispered prayer defines the terms of that relationship. The participant is asking for direction, asking for support. It requires vulnerability, reliance. That gives the movement its soul, really.
And complementing that individual plea, there's also the auditory dimension, isn't there? It's not just internal whispers. There's a communal soundscape mentioned in the echo of sound.
Ah, yes, the sounds.
It details the inclusion of chants and music.
Right.
So if the individual prayer is this personal plea for guidance, what role are these collective chants and music playing in the whole psychological experience?
Well, they create a kind of supporting structure, a collective rhythm, a unifying force. The individual prayer is vital for personal devotion, sure, but the collective chant reinforces that sense of communal identity, shared belief. The music, the chants, they regulate the ritual's pace.
Okay.
And they provide this constant, predictable sonic environment that helps to muffle, the distracting sounds from outside.
So it reinforces that the person isn't alone in this.
Exactly. The whole soundscape feels carefully constructed. It moves you from that singular plea for guidance to this collective framework that offers stability, confirmation.
So if we tie all these threads together, the immediate sensory setup, the precise and graceful movement, the whispered personal prayer, and that supporting sound structure, it creates a really powerful, almost self-sustaining system.
Absolutely. And the source really pulls the synthesis together nicely. It defines the entire practice as a symbol of faith, representing a true connection.
A true connection.
Yeah. The careful physical labor, the sensory immersion, that's not the goal itself, it's the pathway to the goal. The rigor of the external discipline seems designed to guarantee the intensity of the internal experience.
It's like a closed loop system.
Exactly, where the body constantly reinforces the belief.
And what's really remarkable about this source material, I find, is that it concludes by affirming how enduring this system is. It talks about the ongoing power of the legacy of honor, confirming that these rituals live on. They aren't just historical footnotes. They're active, living traditions today.
Still practiced.
Yeah. So thinking about the listener, what does all this mean for you, the learner? I think this source really highlights that tradition relies equally on these three pillars. The sensory experience, like the incense, the physical discipline, those precise hands, deliberate steps, and the spiritual intention, that plea for guidance. The tradition's longevity seems directly tied to the rigor of keeping all three intact.
Which, raises quite an important question for you, the listener, to maybe think about.
Okay.
If every single gesture, every step is so deliberate, so precise, how does that physical rigidity, that demanding nature of the ritual, the very fact that it lives on in that form, how does that affect the evolution or maybe the stability of the beliefs it supports? Does that constant demanding physical performance actually ensure the spiritual longevity of the core tradition, perhaps by making it extremely difficult to deviate from it?
That's a fascinating thought. It encourages you, the listener, to consider the immense, maybe surprising power found in those really delicate details. Not necessarily the grand theology, but the scent of incense, that humble whisper, the single deliberate step. Pay attention to the choreography of reverence you encounter, because often it's those subtle movements that carry the greatest weight of belief.